Say live right up. Now it says live. Hi, everybody. We are back. Surprise. That's the wonderful thing about going live. You never know what the heck is going to happen.
You
But
really don't.
just a reminder, everybody, I'm here with Nicole Strycharz, and we are going to talk about her books. So the last question, or actually the first question I asked you was, did you read as a youngster?
I did all the time and everything I could get my hands on. I was raised by a single mother for most of my life until she met my my stepdad, and she was our whole world was reading. And I mean, she's also a writer, so sometimes she would even create little stories, write stories for me, and tell stories verbally. So I was either reading or listening to stories of any and every kind, and I read very early. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's fantastic. I think that makes a big difference when you're read to as a
Yeah,
child, when you have that early exposure to books, right?
yeah, I do too. Oh yeah.
So is your mom also a published author, or did she just like dabble in writing?
She is working on it this year. We finally said she's gone to school and literally, I mean, she's got degrees for children's books. She's always wanted to do it, but she did the mom thing where she put it on the back burner to have me, and then she poured all that creative writing skill into me. So I finally said to her this year, I'm like, I'm pouring it back into you. It's your turn. So she's actually she's already got her book illustrated, and she's working on the formatting, and we hope to have a release date for maybe later this year. I'm beyond excited because she's so,
Wow,
yeah.
that is fantastic. So she kind of put her writing on hold, right, to raise a family, and now you're an adult and you're writing, and now you're gonna show her the path, right, for
Yeah.
indie, because it's,
Yeah.
if you're not familiar and you don't know a lot of people, it really can be a little bit difficult. It can be a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it's
So
daunting.
let us know, what type of books do you write? Is it the same genre or is it
I,
different genres?
I do multi-genre. So I had started originally wanting to do historical fiction, but it took a while to learn my niche because, you know, what I considered a historical fiction felt a little bit too romantic to just be fiction. So it turned into historical romance. I had some historical fiction, but I was concerned about some of the triggering stuff that was in it. So I put it on hold for a while and I focused on some contemporary, and then I did some romance. It was kind of an accident. Contemporary romance was an accident.
A happy accident, right?
It was, yeah, because I was actually working on historical stuff. It was heavy material, and but I was getting my name for historical romance, and I had this random idea about a divorced couple, and I thought, well, no one's going to read it, but it would, I mean, because I don't write contemporary romance, but I'm going to try it. And so I did, and I put it out with no fanfare because I thought, no, I'm going to read it. It's just kind of fun. And that ended up being the book that got most of my readers and my following. So then I stayed with that. Yeah, it was really wild. And I've met some incredible people because of that book. Like sometimes I've said, as fun as it is to write, and of course you want to make sales and stuff, but the people, the friends I've met, the readers, like some of my best, closest author friends and reader friends came from writing that book. So I'm like, I'm so glad that I put it out just for meeting people. But then I've moved into some paranormal, and I went back to historical fiction. But what I do is if I do something that has a lot of heavy material, I want to be respectful of people's triggers or, their feelings on what they read in their content. I know some people have issues with it, but it's really no different than movies having ratings and just saying heads up, there's stuff in here.
Right. I think a lot of readers appreciate those warnings.
Yeah, it's worth it. If it, I think all of us have moods too, where you might want something lighter versus something heavier. And I think it is for all the good that readers do for writers. It's just a nice courtesy to be able to say, if you want to pass on this because of the content, that's okay. I've got other things I can put out to entertain you, so it's okay.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm a multi-genre, definitely multi-genre: historical romance, contemporary romance, paranormal, and I guess that would, yeah, that would probably cover it. I'd like to dabble in some other things, but that's what it is right now.
And as a reader, when you started reading, young adult, I guess, what did you like to read then? Like, what did you seem to be drawn to?
Everything. I literally, I was, I started with clean romance when I was a teen. My mom was like, yeah, go ahead and get into it. Just start clean. So we started the clean stuff. And I think I appreciate that because I think by reading clean romance, you learn how to create tension and chemistry in a couple that's not reliant on sexual tension alone. And then when you add sexual tension later, it's more combustible because you're like, okay, I've got this whole buildup going on. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of fantasy. I liked some paranormal. At that time, I might not have been as into it as I am now. Adventure, a lot of biographies because I love history. So I was always reading biographies on different characters, George Washington, Harriet Tubman, Thomas Jefferson, stuff like that. So I was wide range back then too. Thrillers,
That's really good. A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then how old were you? Did you always know you were going to write a book? Like, did you always say to yourself, I'm going to write my own book one day? So
yeah.
that was in childhood that you knew you were going to be an author. I think that's fantastic.
I did.
So how old were you when you first started writing, like for books to try and publish, would you say?
Okay. So I would say, of course, like you said, when I was older, when I was a kid, it was my mom. I would draw pictures and she'd say, okay, well, tell me a story about it. And then she would write the story in with the pictures, fold them over, staple them and go, all right, you made a book. And I was like, oh,
Wow. Oh my gosh. I think that's great. That's a good tip for moms or dads. That's a great tip for parents, right? If children like to read and draw and create stories to make their own little books early. That's wonderful.
Yes. I think it's a sense of completion and you're like, oh, I did this, I made this thing. But when I was about, I think I was serious all my life because I was telling stories always, but I started to really sit down and write them out when I was 12. And then when I turned 16, I had sent it off to a publishing house and they accepted it. Some of their terms I didn't like at that time. And, I had to have written permission from my mom and all, that was fine. But some of the control I didn't like. And I mean, indie wasn't really a thing obviously yet. So it was kind of like, I'll wait until a better situation. But all through my high school years, I was homeschooled. So my mom was able to really pour in as much creative writing and depth and she pushed me a lot of the time. So if I was doing a history class, I mean, it was tell the story of the soldier that's from the rebel army from America, but then give us the POV of a soldier from Britain that's over here out of his element. So she would widen my.
And everything, revolved around story. So I think that's great. And then it makes the other subjects that maybe you're not so interested in more interesting, right? Because it's all story related. Yes. So I think that's also fabulous. So how old were you when you published your first book? Or let me ask you this first. How did you come across self-publishing? How did you realize that was something you could do?
That was kind of an accident. Yeah, that was kind of an accident too. I was trying for a long time to get published traditionally, and it was either I got accepted by people that wanted to change too much of the content, or they wanted control that I wasn't willing to give. Or I think the other issue was then I got accepted by a company I really liked, but I was with somebody at the time that I was forced to put everything on the back burner for myself. And then it wasn't until after I lost my partner in 2013 to a car accident, and it was so jarring that I went back to writing as a mental escape kind of. So then I started to focus more on how can I do this? And I want to say it was around 2015 when I stumbled across KDP in my research for publishing. They had come up and they were talking about, have control of your own, your own publishing, like your own publishing house, so to speak.
Right.
So I followed through with the steps, but I laughed because I was so green. When you first do it, you think if I push publish, everyone will know that I wrote a book and they'll just buy the book. I was really green. I had to learn the whole advertising, marketing, making it a business. And then, but I was so desperate. I was going to printers, like local printers, and trying to figure out if I could afford to get the books printed that way. And of course, that's just not ideal. You can't. But I would say it was about 2000, I believe the end of 2015 was when I published my first book. So it's been since then.
Wow. So what, do you have the book? Can we see the cover? Do you have that first book?
Yeah. Let's see. I do. Is this one? Now, this is a new cover. When I first started, I didn't have a cover designer, so I had to figure all that out by myself.
I know.
This is with a cover designer. And it's very small. It was just a little Christmas novella that I had come up with. One of the original books I also published was The Duke of Goldenshire, but it was a hot mess because, again, it was that beginning time, and you look at it and you go, I didn't know all these things that I know now.
I think we all can say that, because in the beginning we really don't know anyone. We don't know.
No.
I mean, a lot of writers do a lot of their own stuff as far as editing, and some people are really good on the computer and with programs, and they can create covers. So that book that you just showed us, the title, what was the title of that book?
This one is Yule, a Solstice Tale, and it's actually part of a series of smaller books that slowly get bigger. And it's been through plenty of, I've definitely, I did my revisions where you go, okay, I'm going to apply everything I learned, and then I'm going to move forward from there.
Exactly. So who created that cover? Did you?
No, her name is Lisa Angel, and she is, I would say that she's like my own personal angel, because I met her and she has designed all of my covers since. I still have a few covers that I had done back when I started that aren't too bad, so I kept them. But as far as everything I've done from then on, I go to her. She's from Got You Covered Designs, and she hears me, and I always sound high. I always laugh. I go, I know I'm going to sound high when I explain it. But if you can make that look not like I was high, and she does. I mean, she does an incredible job with designing and wrapping. So she does my covers now.
That's great to have that connection with the cover designer, where you could say something and they can actually create what you see, right? So that's no wonder why she does all the covers to your books, because that's important to have the communication and that kind of, contact where, she can actually come up with the vision that you have, not being, if you draw, it's kind of difficult. And then how about the editing? Do you have an editor? Do you run your work through programs?
I do. I run so editing is a funny story, because I always tell people that editors are incredible people, because, and they're worth the money, because I think that their job is a different part than our job is. It's, looking through the work and finding and cleaning it up so that you're clear and you're making sense, and you can, the story can be followed and not be distracted by oopsies. The only issue is, as a single mom, it is really, it was one of those things where, as I was looking at the possibilities, there was no way that I'd be able to move and dream happen if I hired one, because it would be like maybe one book every 5 years. And I had said to myself, I really want this. And I think the best thing to do is move forward, but continue to learn, find people that are willing to teach and broaden my scope. And so what I do is I do run them through programs. And then I have a very close friend who, she'll say to me, I'm not going to take credit as an editor, because I'm not perfect, but she's extremely, oh my God, she's very gifted with catching my errors. And she's actually taught me so much that my writing doesn't look anything like it did when I started. So between her amazing eyesight and these programs, and then a couple of close friends that are ARC readers that have good eyesight as well, I'm able to keep them as clean as I can. But I do appreciate editors, and I think they're worth the money. My problem is I'm a fire sign doer, so I want to move forward and make it happen, even if I have to work harder in other aspects to do so. So it's, yeah.
Right. I can totally understand that. And then how about you're on, I guess, in different groups on social media, different writing groups and stuff like that. So that
Yes.
too can help. Have you ever tried to reach out to maybe any beta readers from there, or no? You have your
Well,
people and
yeah, so beta reading, I'm okay. So as far as editing goes, I always say you have room to grow and rules change. So you can never, I have trouble. I would never be able to arrogantly go, I'm fine. I don't need people to look at. It's like, no, I know that I have errors and I could definitely use, I have my trusted group. As far as storyline goes, once the story is done, and my mother's my biggest critic. So as much as she loves me, she's not afraid to go, you didn't dig deep enough, or why would he say that, or that's not how men talk, or try that again.
I think that's great to have.
Yeah, by time it's gone through her, and it's out to the point of arc reading, so to speak, I would never change anything about the plot according to anyone, even if it's frustrating or maybe someone doesn't like endings, or I've decided, and that's how it's going to stay. So as far as beta reading goes, I have one beta reader for now. That's my mother. But as far as editing, I have the, that tight circle that I trust that goes through it. And that's where it is for now. But
yeah. If it works, then that, you know what I mean? It seems like it works. I just want to say we have Suzanne watching. Hi, Suzanne. She says, hello, ladies. And she said, starting with clean and adding the sexual tension is a great idea.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
She agrees with you on that. Suzanne is also an author, an indie author. And Beth is watching, also an indie author, and she said it's one huge learning curve.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
So on your journey to indie and to publishing, what do you feel was maybe the biggest struggle for you?
I think the biggest struggle would be not wanting to give up when things are tough. I really do, because I think everything else, if you really want to do it, you're going to do it. And that's where you'll filter out the excuses. But every now and then you face that doubt. And I think the biggest hurdle that I finally got over a couple years ago was I don't read my reviews. I look at it as that's for the reader. The reader can go on and kind of gauge what they want from those reviews, and they are important. But I also have learned to appreciate all reviews, good, bad. I think the only way to look at it is that nothing you write, nothing you do, no movie is going to reach everybody and be a favorite. It's there to reach certain people, and that's okay. And I think once you become confident enough in yourself to say, not everybody has to like this book. It's there for this group of people maybe, and not for this group. It kind of frees you up creatively, because when you're so worried about those reviews and what they say and how people feel, you start to pick apart your craft, and then you start to pick apart your self-confidence, and then you're just. So for me, I think that the hardest part was learning to have that self-confidence and say, once the book's out, I'm proud of the work. I stand behind the work. Editing wise, you can always grow, obviously. I'm okay with that, but I've accepted that this is where it's going to be right now. So it is what it is. I have very caring readers, thankfully, that have been open-minded enough to go, this is her. I can look past some of it.
I know what you mean. And not every book is for every reader. Some people rave about some books, and then you might read the book and say, or movies, and you might say, yeah, I didn't feel the same way. And then you might love something and somebody else might say, oh, I didn't think it was that great. So everybody has a different taste or and like you said before, it also depends on your mood. You might find something really funny one day and then pick it up and read it again and not find it, or it might not hit you hard, And
I think too that once you, I think that I have heard that there's times where there's certain authors that will put out books in arcs and say, it has to be a 5-star, it has to be a 4-star. And I say, you missed out on that, because I think also when readers see mixed reviews, they know that nothing's biased. And I think that's so important, because there are times you'll see a book with nothing but 5 stars and you question that. because it's hard to think that nobody had different opinions on it. And I
Right.
liked the fact that sometimes my books can cause people to have different opinions, or to maybe rethink a situation, or maybe they're a little uncomfortable. And that's okay, because that means I've pushed them a little out of their comfort zone. And if they're okay with that, they'll come back and read more from me. And if they're not, they'll stray, and that's okay. I think that everyone's opinions are so important, but at the same time, for me and my craft, I have to go, that's for the readers, that's for them, and that's okay. That I think once you do that,
Exactly.
you just feel freer, like,
Yeah.
okay, that's, so
The
it's not
feedback.
personal, really.
Yeah, no, it's not personal. Exactly. And the feedback is so important because you want to know what the readers are thinking about your story, what they're thinking about the characters. If you got that
Yeah,
point across that you were trying to, drive home, and, did they find it interesting and believable? And, it's just like a whole ball of stuff. So if there's no
yeah,
honesty there, it's kind of hard to grow, right?
it is so hard.
If there's no honesty. So yeah, honest reviews and reviews in general. I look at it this way: all reviews are good reviews. I mean, if someone takes the time to read the book and then take the time, they think about it, they sit down, they write a review. I mean, that takes time. And what
Yes,
do us writers love? Reviews. So reviews are really, really so important. And
they
even
are.
if favorable or it isn't 5 stars or 4 stars, that review is still important, and the writer wants to read it and needs to read it. You know what I mean? So, and
Yes.
and not to take it personal, because like you said, it's just a story.
Well, and you wonder, I mean, my mom used to say all the time, sometimes, especially for me as a reader, there are times that if I do think a book is a low star, it's because maybe it plucked a nerve on me. It could be something that I experienced in my life, or I did, that it kind
Right.
of too close to home. And so I'm like, I don't want to read that right now.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's true. The timing.
so,
Sometimes it's all about the timing of when you're reading it, what's going on in your own life, or how you feel in that day. There's so
that's
many
right.
things, so
Yeah.
many things. One day you might love something, and the next day you might not. So
Yeah.
do you remember when you first clicked on KDP submit or upload? I don't remember exactly what it is, but do you remember, like, did you hesitate before you hit that submit button?
I hesitated before I went through the whole process, but again, I sometimes I have that impulsive energy. Like I'll say to myself, don't be impulsive, don't be impulsive, think it out. So I'll do that. That's where I hesitate. Once I decide to do it, I'm just like, nope, I'm doing it without thinking. I'm moving
Yeah,
forward. I'm going to trust this, so I didn't shake with clicking it. I shook with starting it and like opening it and prepping it. But once I was at the finish line, I was like, let's go.
yeah. We're
Let's go.
just
Let's
gonna
see how.
do this, right? We're just
Yeah,
gonna do this. And when you
yeah.
when you actually finished your first book and you knew it was done, how did that feel? Like when you were finished typing, do you type everything, or do you handwrite? What is your process? Do you type right into the
I,
laptop?
I used to handwrite first, and I mean, I went around with those little, the clipboards that can also hold paper. So I used to do that. But then I went from that to the typewriter, went from the typewriter to writing again, and then I went to the laptop. So now, and back then, my method was the laptop. So I think the sense of completion was great. And that's one of the reasons my first book, one of the first books was so small, was because my uncle, whom I just adore, he passed away last year. He has been, along with my mother, the two biggest support systems in my life with this. And one of the advices he used to give me all the time was, do small stories, like especially if you're stuck or if you're not feeling it, do small stuff so that you get that sense of completion, and then move on to the big stuff. Or you might turn the small thing into something big because now your juices are flowing. So I started with that really big book, The Duke of Goldenshire, but I learned quickly it had a lot of places I just needed to tighten up because it's a big book. But as far as the small book went, it was that quick completion that made me go, I did it. All right, we're good.
Wow, yeah. I think
So
that's a great tip, though, to start out small. I think that's great advice. Start out
yeah,
small, because I think a lot of times writers feel maybe a little pressured to fill in the middle. or they
Yes.
don't exactly know where the story's going, and nobody really
Yeah.
wants to read unnecessary dialogue or filler, right?
Yeah.
And people
Right.
love short stories because everybody's in a rush, and sometimes people just want to get their reading fix, right? And they want to
Yeah.
read something quick just to get the feeling of the book.
Yeah. Or the writer too, just to get the feeling of the person's abilities and whether or not that style will work for them. And I think you're absolutely right. I think just as much as we feel the need for completion, readers can want to have that small thing that makes them feel like, I mean, even for me with my Goodreads challenge reading, I'll sit there and go, okay, maybe I'll start my year with a couple of small ones so I feel like I'm getting done. So yeah, I think that's good for everyone sometimes to have those quicker reads.
Yes, I think that's great advice. So now you have a total of, is it 19 published books? Wow. So now when you,
Yeah.
after you, I think you wrote, okay, there you go. After you wrote your first book, how long would you say it took you to write your second book? Like you had the idea already in mind and you had, like, were you writing books maybe at the same time, like writing your first book and, making your second, like notes for your second book, or do you only work on one book at a time?
I try to work on only one book at a time, and that goes for my attention span. I think even with reading, a lot of times if I'm writing, I read very slowly because it's almost like I have to throw myself completely into what I'm working on, and I don't want to be influenced mentally or think of other. And I also will do that weird hoarding thing. And I think as a writer, you're going to know what I mean. Where especially if you're creating a background, you'll suddenly go, "Do I want him to have this? Do I want this guy to have that? Should I save this for this person?" And it's like, I want to just focus on where I am. So I will try to tune out other books and other ideas so that I can kind of focus on the one at a time. So when I did the first ones, I was definitely singular, one at a time, just kind of putting all my energy into each one and taking my time. And I don't know how long it takes. I always try to catalog, and then for some reason I always forget to write my starting date and then my finishing date. So I want to say it can take a month to 3 months for me to finish writing it. But then of course the process of going back through it and revising it is longer. So.
Right. So you don't really set a time limit on yourself. Or like some people try to get out a book every few months, some people a book a year. So as you write them, right?
Yeah,
You don't keep track.
I don't set any goals. I sometimes I will try to say to myself, maybe it's time for, depending on the market and how people respond to books, I might say, okay, maybe it's time to focus on something modern that people is more likely to fly than something that's not got as big of a following. But for the most part, if I'm not inspired, I know I don't write well. I'll have stagnant writing. So I will literally just say to myself, whatever comes, we're just going to work with it.
Exactly. Sometimes the story takes over, the characters take over, and they start to write the story, which is such magic.
Yeah.
I love when that happens. So do you plot your stories out? Are you one of those people that maybe have some index cards and write scenes, like what's going to happen here, what's going to happen there, or do you just fly by the seat of your pants?
I think it depends on the story. I think if it's something, if it's I wouldn't say romance is ever simple. Any story has a lot to it and a lot of levels to it. But I think for the most part, we can all agree that it's, boy meets girl, or, boy meets boy, or whatever you're writing. And it's the obstacles between them. And then you have your side characters, you try to round them out. But for the most part, it's a clear path. So when it's something like that, like a contemporary romance with not a lot of research necessary, I won't say I fly by the seat of my pants, but I'll have a more relaxed approach. I might write down 1 or 2 scenes that I plan to work around, but it's kind of like it's going to come as it comes. But then if it's something historical with a lot of research, or something very twisty, like my one book, The Golden Van Dorens, was, like, I would say, multiple plots, multiple characters, multiple things happening at one time. So I had to have like an entire mapping of, this person and their motivation, this person, their motivation, their background, how it's all going to coincide with each character. So in cases like that, I get really, really detailed. It just depends on the book.
And a lot of writers say that they picture their characters in their head. Sometimes their characters are even celebrities. My characters are blurry. I don't see faces or celebrities or anything like that, you know, fake characteristics or anything. How about you? Do you have like a clear vision of your characters' faces, or do you use celebrities in their place?
Sometimes, I think I see I get what you mean by blurry. I think sometimes I see a version of them.
Mm,
But because I feel like it's not strong to I guess put wind in my sails, I will find a celebrity that is close to what I'm picturing and then kind of copy paste that face on there so that I can kind of go deeper, because I will see a version, okay, maybe tall with dark hair and a beard, but I still want the details that my brain isn't giving me. So I'll find a celebrity that kind of matches that, and then copy and paste so that I can start getting more detailed about their background or their personality traits.
right. And how about dialogue? Do you find dialogue easy to write or a little difficult to write?
Dialogue is my favorite to write. I prefer that. I love dialogue because I think I get, when I'm reading a book, I get to know the characters better through their dialogue and how they respond, even if it's very short sentences. You know, okay, so the book The Love That Hurts that I wrote about domestic violence, my male lead is a man of very, very few words. And I did that so that when he speaks, it's something important or it's something alerting to the reader. They're kind of like, okay, what?
He's finally saying something. He's the strong silent
Yes,
type.
something's it must mean, and he is a mumbler, so I want to give, I mean, we all know guys that mumble and they don't say much, and so that when they do speak or if they have something important to say, you're kind of like, oh, okay, let's listen to what he's gonna say. So I think sometimes even in how few words are spoken or how much, or I think characters tell on themselves based on their dialogue. So for me, dialogue is my favorite because as I'm writing, that's how I'm getting used to who this character is by how they speak, how open they are, how transparent, whether they lie or they have a lot to conceal, how they think of themselves, how they think of other people. So I love dialogue. I think the only issue I've had with dialogue in the past is when I'm writing males, I try very hard to make sure that I'm not projecting female dialogue on a male, because women we communicate and we share in such detail, and men don't always do that. So it's that careful line. Would a guy really say that, especially with another guy? And I've had moments where my mom's like, a man would never say, no, cut this whole thing out. She's like, this isn't necessary. Just one word sentences here. This isn't, So yeah, dialogue's my favorite. I love it.
And what do you find the most difficult? Or you don't find anything difficult? Like maybe description, some people are not maybe descriptive enough and they have to, add a little bit of that. I know some readers don't want too much description because they like to create, the scene or the character in their mind. But some readers like to have, a little bit to go on, maybe hair color and stuff like that. So how are you with description?
Okay, so I think with description, I do like to write what I like to read. So with description, I try to give enough to immerse the reader. Like if it's a surrounding, if you're describing heat or something, I think there's trigger statements that can throw a person's memory into what it is to be hot. Things like sweat trickling down like a back of your neck, or if you're talking about the cold and you mention how someone can see their breath and their fingers feel brittle, I think if you say those words, and especially, you bring out that thesaurus and you say something like frigid, there's certain words that I think the reader will now picture everything you're saying without too much extra being added on. For me, I can get kind of bored if there's too much description, because I want to get to the dialogue and I want to get to the characters and seeing how they act and move. So sometimes with description, I'll sit there and say to my mom, did I describe it enough? Did I explain it was hot? Did it feel hot? Or, I'll describe, I think when I first started, especially with contemporary romance, there were times where I felt like I look back at some of my work and I go, I think we could have cooled it on the appearance. I'm trying to make sure everybody knows this person's attractive, but I think, you know, now the way I write, I'll give you certain trigger words that the person's obviously attractive, or maybe a hair color or something, and then I kind of leave it and let you come up with your own person to fill that shoe. So
Right.
detail is not my favorite thing, but I know it's so very necessary. So
Right.
yeah.
It is a learning process, though, for sure. Like you said, the way we
Yeah.
write the books in the beginning and you know, in the future, as we write on, we learn things maybe we didn't do, or too much of this, not enough of that. So it's definitely, I mean, even the famous writers, when they talk about, I love to watch YouTube and see authors, you know, they talk at school sometimes, or, you know, whatever event they're at, and they answer questions. And a lot of them say, you know, what a difference their first book, you know, compared to, you know, whatever they're on now, the 20th book. They learn so much, and it's a process. It's definitely a journey. Now, you've won some awards for your work, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
sort of. I was nominated quite a few times. I got second place for my book cover, The Divorce. They said that was best cover for the Indie Book Awards, and that was really exciting. And then,
Nice.
and that's funny because that's this one. And this
good.
was, yeah, it's the two rings with The Divorce. And it's kind of funny because that was again back before I had Lisa. And I had done that picture myself and I had put it on there, and I was like, you know, but a lot of people have said they love the cover for that one because it's so ominous, I guess, you know, the divorce and you just see rings. So as much as I say that's such an amateur picture, I don't know if I'll ever change it because everybody loves it the way it is. So I'm like, I'll leave it alone, at least for now, you know.
It has the black background, right?
Yeah, like it has like a dark navy, and then like the outside is a black color.
Yeah, because it's powerful. You know what I mean? It's a powerful cover, and the story's about divorce. So I think you did a good job on that.
Yeah.
I definitely
thank you so much.
Good job on that. How did you know, in case other writers would like to find out, how did you know to enter contests? Where did you get that information from?
I actually didn't enter those. Somebody nominated, those were nominations that I got. I didn't enter them. They were nominated by readers. So I honestly don't have as much info on that because I've never willingly entered a contest. I've kind of done the reverse. A lot of times I will nominate friends. I just will say, oh my God, they have to know about TJ London's book, or they have to know about Ava Danielle or Daisy St. James, because I'll notice it's about their genre. And I think of them first. I tend to just kind of, but I usually a lot of times through nominations, I find out. That's how I find out about them.
I love that because I think writers should support other writers. So I think that's great. And that's good for other writers to know too. So nominate, you know, if you like someone's book, the story, the cover, and you see a contest, nominate that writer, because you never know. I mean, being nominated is phenomenal, and it's something to remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's definitely something to remember. So now, with all the genres you write, is there a favorite that you especially like to work on? I know you said historical fiction, but is that your favorite?
Yeah. I love writing anything historical. Definitely. Historical is my favorite, whether it's romance or historical fiction. I love having to research and find the answers. And a lot of times I feel like history kind of writes the story for you because it gives you the whole layout. And it is a little bit like fantasy with world building, because if you don't live in that era, you obviously have to present the era to the reader. So I love taking my time to do that and getting into the costume, understanding the politics of that era, because just like in science, you know, they'll say that the environment obviously holds weight over the specimen, and the specimen also kind of puts its fingerprint on the environment. So, you know, when you're writing something historical, you're looking at, this is the environment that these people are in, and how is that affecting their life, and how is their life affecting the environment. So I like getting in there and doing that the most. I love contemporary, but my heart and my soul and my niche is in anything that's historical.
And with the historical, like, you have to really get into the clothing of that time.
Yeah.
right? And like you had said, the language, I guess the words that they use and the way the environment looked and the places that they lived. So
Yeah.
that could get a little tricky. I guess that well, you read historical fiction when you were young, but I guess for someone who hasn't, or even yourself, even though you read it, a lot of research is probably involved because you want to hit that like right on the head.
Yeah. And I think I have come to love the authors out there that sometimes if they're writing something historical, the woman who wrote Hunting Dracula or something like that, I forget what it's called. It's a young adult historical fiction. But she kind of makes it clear in the back of the book that she did take some license, that she moved some dates around to better fit the story. And I think as long as you tell people you're doing that, it's really, I mean, I just want to be told a story, so I'm good with it. I'll deal with the dates changing or, you know, the timeline being moved up. They do that, I think, with a lot of TV shows and movies. You know, something like Vikings with Ragnar Lothbrok. Obviously, if they showed you the reality of it, he'd be, you know, ancient by the time he accomplished something. The reality is they sped up the timeline to make it fit. And I think as long as you're aware of that, that's okay. As long as you know you're doing that and you're doing it for creative reasons. I try to be as accurate as I can because I like working within some like I guess the word would be boundaries. I like having boundaries and having to work inside the boundary and say, okay, you know, something like emancipation wasn't here yet, so I have to work around the universe that comes with that. Or, you know, women's rights weren't here yet, so I have to work within what that would be like for this character. So I kind of like that. But yeah.
Right. It's a little challenging. I would say it's definitely a little challenging. And sometimes if you don't give the heads up, like you said, the author gives a heads up that things might not be as accurate time-wise, because I know some readers will point that out. They're very serious about the time, what goes on in the times, and you know, the clothing and the talk, very, very serious about that. And Gina Solomon, Gina's also a writer, Gina's an editor, and she said, my kind of writer, writing with the 5 senses.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So now you have 19 books, and when did you release your 19th book?
Okay, what was my 19th?
If you have it, let's see that one.
Yeah, it was the 12 Nights. It was a historical Christmas story. Again, not too big, not a novella, but not too big. And this one was a fly by the seat of your pants a little bit. It was inspired by my favorite children's book, and I released this in December of last year. So one of my favorite of all time Christmas children's books was The 12 Days of Christmas. And I have one that was illustrated. I can't quite remember the name of the artist now. It's in here, but she's an incredible watercolor artist. And I have a love affair with watercolor artists. My mom does watercolor. So I had based it around her illustrations, picturing that and this couple. And I got so into it. I called it Denial December because it was 2020's Christmas, right? And everybody was a little depressed. So I was like, how can I get through Denial December? And I literally, the only reason I got up in the morning in December is I'd hear Hugo and Maude. And I'd be like, oh, I need to get up and write Hugo and Maude. So I'd get up at like 5 a.m. and start typing Hugo and Maude. And it was just a fun, happy book. I like no triggers, no heavy material, just a fun Christmas read. That's just
light and happy.
Yeah.
Right? Light and happy. Did you find it a little difficult to write during the past year and a half with everything that's been going on? Did that affect your writing at all?
It did and it didn't. I had last year, in the early part of the year before anything happened, I think I had 2 releases. They were minor. They weren't anything too big. They were just kind of installments that I have fun writing. But the biggest one came after my uncle passed away. He read all my books, and one of the books that I had been working on was The Golden Van Dorens, and it had a lot of heavy material, but I don't think I had thrown myself into it fully. Could have been a little apprehension, I guess, because of how heavy the material was. But he loved the idea of it. And so after he passed away, I did have trouble processing that. So I kind of finally sat down and said, I'm going to go ahead and just pour myself into this, and it'll be as dark as it is, and I'll put warnings on it, and then I'll send it out in the world, but I need to write it. So I think in a way, even though 2020 was such a train wreck, I was able to kind of like just go there. And
Right.
I like Salt. I love that book, and I put a lot of work into that one. And then later, months later, I did the 12 nights, which was kind of light and fun. So yeah, I don't think it affected me a totally bad way, but it was a rough year.
Yeah. Some writers said that they found it very difficult to write, you know, with everything that was going on. I guess their mind was preoccupied and just the creativity wasn't flowing. So it was difficult from what I hear for a lot of writers. So when do we expect book number 20? You're working on that now?
I'm done with it, and it's in the hands of my editor, who is looking at it. It's the seventh book to the novelist that I started, the little skinny ones, Ulysses' Tale. It's the seventh one in that, and it's a little thicker because it's finally getting towards the end. I only have one more book, and then it's done. So she's got a hold of that, and when it's done, I'll start working on release dates and getting it out there. So that's going to be the 20th or whatever amount of books this is now.
Wow, that's fantastic. 20 books since, did you say 2015?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 6 years. Wow.
Yeah.
20 books, all different genres. I think that's fantastic. So now, if an indie author,
thank you.
You're welcome. If an indie author asked you for any advice or a tip that you learned that you think would be valuable to share with someone who is just starting their journey, do you have anything to say to someone that's maybe watching this?
Yeah, I have two things I would say in that case. And the first one is what my mom told me, which was network. I don't think I ever would have even kept going after the first one if I hadn't met so many incredible authors that were willing to talk and share, and sometimes not even about books, just about life and being an author and having ideas and being understood by other people that were like me. And I think that the support that comes with knowing all these other people that have the same kind of creative mind is just
like-minded people. It's so important. Yeah,
it's I mean, and I always say it's the one job where you really don't have to compete. I mean, if you look at a person's bookshelves, they're filled with 9 million different kinds of books. So there's room for everybody. So you don't have to have that cutthroat mentality. You can just make friends. You know, I can push my girl, TJ London, who does revolutionary fiction. And, you know, in hand with that, you know, if you're reading my books and you like historical, I know you'll love her. And so I can tell you about her. If you're reading my paranormal, I can tell you about Daisy St. James because she's incredible. I don't feel like it's the kind of thing where once you find your author family, like the Writers Rock group is incredible. They're always supportive there. They're willing to help. Nobody's judgmental. The admins are great. So I think the most important thing that you can do for your mind, for your mental health, is to have a community of authors that are willing to be part of your journey and talk it out and be there on crappy days and be there on good days. And like we said, nominating each other, push each other, inspiring each other. And then the other thing would be what I said about reviews, not to take them personal, that they're just there because other people do want to gauge how other people feel about a book. I know if I can't connect to a book, sometimes I like looking at the reviews to know I wasn't the only dummy that couldn't get into it at the time. It's like, okay, other people felt like I did. It's okay. Or somebody else loved it like I did, you know? So I think reviews are priceless, and I welcome any kind of review. And because of that, I'm free to just enjoy my craft. So I think appreciating your readers, meeting other authors, being open to hearing what other people have to say, that's the best advice I think anybody could have.
Well, I think that's really good advice. That's for sure. So thank you for sharing that. And you said, so book number 20 is with your editor. So when are you expecting that? Yes. When are you expecting that release?
I didn't put too much of a timer on her because I want to finish working on it, and I may not even release it right away. I might sit on it because it's the last book before the last book. So sometimes when that happens, I like to really make sure that I've combed through it for anything that's going to affect the next book, good or bad. So plot. So I can't even say, I don't really have a date yet until I get it back and I've sat on it a little bit longer, but definitely this year.
And do you have
unless something else pops up.
Yeah, I know, you never know, right? Life can be so unexpected sometimes. And did you have a cover in mind for that one? I don't remember if you said. Did you have something that you were thinking about?
I do. Actually, it's fun, and I'll show it. Hold on, I don't like that. I'm not that private with that. That's okay.
That way people know what to look for.
It has the not release stamp across it, but it's Ostara. It's book 7, and
Wow,
it's
so
got
it's
the
old.
woman with the dragon behind and the egg in the background that's cracking. And this is like a pretty big series. It comes with all of these. I can't even hold them all. My hand's breaking, but it's like a series of, again, easy to finish because not too big. This is actually the biggest one, and as you can tell, it's not that big. But it's a fun little series that's just paranormal. It started paranormal historical fiction, and then it's kind of evolved into the modern day in these last 2 books. But it's in Ireland, and it's set around a recluse druid who ends up falling for his abandoned brother's wife and son. So it's just a fun story where I keep integrating new paranormal creatures and how this family handles that. And it's just, I love that little series. It's fun.
It sounds really, really good. So everybody, we can expect that coming from Nicole Strycharz within, I guess, the next few months, and that'll be available on Amazon and KDP also, right? All right, great. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, so that way everybody knows where to find you, is post your links under this interview. It'll post probably after we're done. It'll take a couple of minutes, but then it'll post all your links. That way everyone knows where to find you, follow you, and find your books.
Cool.
Okay. Such a joy to talk to. Thank you so much for your honesty and for your tips and your advice.
Thank you so much. You were amazing. I'm so glad I got to meet you. I was excited about meeting you.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. And I love you got a really good energy about you. So
thank you so much.
And that probably comes through in your books, in your stories. So I think they're definitely worth reading. And thank you so much for joining me today. It was really great, and it was a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to meet you too. Big time.
Thank you, Nicole. And we will see you on Amazon and KDP. So guys, don't forget, check out Nicole Strycharz, and she's going to add those links. And thank you, everybody. And Gina, I just want to say, Gina said, great advice. Sounds like I've been missing out on some great books. I'll be checking them out. Awesome. That's great. That. Thank you, Gina. All right, guys. So everybody have a great day. And Nicole, again, it was my pleasure, and take care. And we'll be looking for book number 20.
Yay. Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome. Take care. All right. Bye.